Right. Okay, so what does the phrase, I use the phrase never too late ever on my show. What does the phrase never too late mean to you? Say, Jonathan, why don't you start? What does that phrase mean to you?
Yeah, well, a big part of our healing in this, and we realized it was until years later that a deeper sense of healing came to us, and that was when we were reading back portions of Jana's prayer journal that she wrote while she was going through chemo and in the heat of the trial, and we realized we still had all of these wounds that weren't just physical wounds, spiritual. Our relationship had taken a hit. Things we had never talked about, and we had a kind of a cathartic breakdown of crying and saying, we've got a lot of follow-up stuff we need to deal with. We were reading a book at the time called Seven Cries of the Heart, Seven Desires of the Heart, that talked about emotional needs. And it helped us to begin to identify some of those wounds and to seek some help from a counselor who could help us and to name those so we could address them together. And that sense very much was a never too late. Like you were saying, we're all carrying something. We all have some kind of wound. And a lot of times it was unmet, unaddressed wounds that cause the most damage. We all have to start somewhere in that woundedness, but sort of that intentionality of naming them is the first step. And that's what, by the grace of God, we were able to start doing.
Right. So you named your what you were going through emotionally. What's the process?
Yeah. We kind of looked back at the journey and using these seven desires. It's a book written by Deborah Laser. And she talks about needs such as the need to be blessed or to be included, the need to be safe, the need to be touched,
heard and understood.
And we kind of retraced our steps in a way to look where we hadn't communicated or weren't able to communicate. And both of us, not just Jana as the patient, but also myself as the caregiver, to realize what wounds had been caused as a result of those needs not being met and communicated about. And once we named those, then we could start to unpack them a little bit, talk about them, and help each other out and get the counselor's help.
Right.
But naming them was a huge part of it.
So you had to identify them. So, Jana, what does never too late ever mean to you on the other side of having had that physical issues in the breast cancer? What does it mean on this side?
Yeah. Well, my experience was that it was hard to start living life to the fullest afterward because I was so afraid the cancer was going to come back. And I think a lot of people going through hardships, you get your heart broken, and the next time you are tempted to, fall in love, you think twice about it because you don't want your heart to be broken again. And what I would say is it's never too late to start living life to the fullest again. But it does take, that trust that no matter what happens, that God is still going to be faithfully walking with you and giving you the resources you need.
Right. So, yeah, and I think the importance, because I hear what you're saying, especially when you had that liver, was it? Yeah. Living with that uncertainty sometimes makes you afraid to face what you're doing in the day. And I think that what you're saying, in order to live like it's never too late ever, we need to embrace every single day. Yes, we do have fears, but it's a matter of working and getting through on the other side. Because what happens is when we have those fears, oh no, now what happens if the cancer comes back, or when I was first married to my husband, my father died suddenly when I was a child at 11 years old. So I never got over that fear. And every time I was happy with my husband, I thought, oh, when he walked out the door, something's going to happen to him. And I planned the funeral in my head. And you know what? When we do that, live within our fears, we are taking away, robbing from the joy of today. Right. And I think I think that's what you're saying. When we live never too late ever, it's because this is the gift God has given us each day. So when you deal with people with emotional needs, what are some of the hurts that you might see in your practice when you're dealing with people?
Yeah. Unresolved grief is a big deal, whether the loss of a loved one, like in your case, or the loss of a relationship, or the loss of just even optimism for life. So not having dealt with that and named that and been accepting of the pain of that, that's a pretty common deal.
With older people, we see the loss of independence as a real struggle. And they're, unlike, funerals, or if you lose a job, you rewrite your resume and then you find a new job. But when you're slowly losing your independence, whether that's physically or mentally or emotionally, and there's very little chance that you can regain it, it's a different kind of grief.
Right.
It's different, there's not a funeral that you can have for that grief. So helping people name it, and then helping people acknowledge that, this is hard, and it's okay to be sad and even shed tears over those losses, and then kind of reframing, where are the little joys in life? You kind of reframe your perspective from, having big adventures in life, maybe when you've got all your faculties, to I think about my mom, who's in a care center now. One of her most favoriteest things is to do window visits through the glass with people that she knows and loves.
Yeah. And I think, so I think I heard what you said. You name the emotion, and then you learn to reframe it. And I love that word, reframe, because if we don't learn to reframe or adjust as life changes around us, if we're still stuck in the past or when we were 19 or 20 and we don't reframe it, we're not going to enjoy again today. So our time is almost up. So I'd like you to tell us today how the audience can get a hold of you, and tell us exactly how you help others, couples, to regain their relationship or their spiritual life. Let us know what you can do for people and how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. We're just regrouping, so we don't have a website up yet. We are moving what we have done for about nearly 30 years in parish ministry to more of an online life coaching and spiritual relational coaching. So we've got a Facebook page called More to This Life, or Jonathan and Jana, More to This Life. You can find us there, and soon you'll find us at a website by that same name. And where we have various levels, or we will be offering various levels of getting involved with online life coaching, whether that's spiritually, emotionally, or relationally. We kind of touch on all three of those things, helping people name the fears, like we've been talking about, that are maybe paralyzing them, reshaping, like we've been talking about today, naming the pain, but growing communication skills with couples to work together, and then where's God in the middle of all that?
Right.
Some ways of connecting maybe more personally than people have.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for coming in today, and I have one more question for each of you. What is the legacy that you would like to leave behind, and how do you want to be remembered by your family and friends? We'll start with you, Jana. What is the legacy you'd like to leave for your friends and family?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just buried my dad in October, and Father's Day is coming, so I think about his legacy of being such a loving, relationally kind, adventurous person. And I think, I would love to have that as my legacy. But I think because of so many hardships that we've experienced, I really do hope that people can remember me as somebody who navigated the hardships and still had the joy of the Lord in the midst of my life.
Wonderful. How about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, two quotes that I think of often. One is by a famous missionary, Jim Elliot, who said, wherever you are, be all there, with every situation to the hilt that you believe to be the will of God. So being present, living, we want to die living. We don't want to be living dead. And so being present with people in this situation. And then the other is my dad, a sermon he gave. He was also a pastor. In the last sermon he gave where I had grown up, and he was moving to what was his last call, it was only, I think, the second time I'd seen him cry, and I was an older teenager at that point, and only seen him cry one other time. He kind of broke down crying and gave this one quote from a poem. I wish I knew who wrote it. I don't. But the quote was, "There's only one life, will soon be past. So it's only what's done for Christ that will last." And so I hope my legacy will be, I help people understand Jesus' presence in their life a little more clearly.
Thank you, Jonathan, Jana, for coming in. I'm so excited that we get to have you back here next week. And remember out there, it is just never too late. It's never too late to get over your fear, never too late to lose weight. And as Jonathan said, it is never too late to live. Instead of dying living, let's live until we die. It is never too late. It's never too late to follow your dreams, to live a life of purpose. It is just never too late ever. And we will see Jonathan and Jana back here next week. Talk to you soon. Bye.